there are attractions, passions, that draw us down to something lower than ourselves. Like food. The passion for food, I'm not talking about hunger. The appetite, the pleasure. The passion for food takes us down. Because the food that we're going to eat that is going to give us that pleasure is way lower than a human being. So a human being is seeking pleasure in something that is not human, not even animal. It's vegetable. You know, like chocolate or potato chips. So where are we getting our pleasure from? Something much lower than ourselves, which would mean that this attraction draws us away from our higher status down to something lower. To make it worse, it's not just an attraction to. You're asking that lower substance to give you pleasure. In other words, it is now the mashpia and you're the makabel. So you are, in a sense, begging a vegetable to give you pleasure. That's degrading. And on some level, just subconscious or unconscious, or on some level, when you do that, you feel a little bit diminished. You feel a little loss of dignity, a little loss of self-respect. Because, I mean, how can you not? On the other hand, there are certain pleasures, certain taivas that elevate you, that pull you upwards, away from the human condition, but to something greater than the human condition. And that's what marriage is supposed to be. The desire to get married is a desire that pulls you upwards to something noble, to something selfless, to something bigger than yourself. So how does that apply to intimacy? That seems to be a contradiction. That's why we need to understand what intimacy in marriage is, because it's part of the upward movement. It is not downward. Outside of marriage, the intimate passion, desire for physical pleasure, for body pleasure, takes you down to the level of animal. But marriage is supposed to elevate you above the level of human. So we have three choices, actually, three possibilities. You either pursue something that is below you and ask it to give you pleasure, or you stay on the level of the human and you act like a human being, and you have the pleasure of being a human being and you feel like a mensch. Or number three, you have an attraction and a pleasure from being something more than human, something higher than human. Those are the three pleasures that are available to us. That's why there are some things you're not allowed to do in the bedroom, because that takes you down. And in marriage, there should be no downward movement. So that's not allowed. Then there are things, most things, that are on the human level, If you're acting like a mensch and you're being a human being, fine. Everything's all right. Then there's the third. Marriage is not supposed to maintain you on the human level. It's supposed to elevate you above. So the passion, the pleasure, should not just be human. It should be something bigger. And that's what the Torah says, or means. When it says, therefore a man should leave his mother and father, cleave to his wife, and they should become one. Becoming one is not a human activity. Becoming one is bigger than a human. Because by nature, every human being is a separate entity. You have your tastes, you have your opinions, you have your style. How do two people become one? Only by rising above the human. So marriage, obviously, from the Torah, is the ideal is to rise above yourself. So that even in the intimacy, in the physical intimacy, there's a possibility of elevating yourself through it, certainly not degrading yourself, and not even remaining on your own level, but going up a step. So just as in all other functions in life, in marriage you are selfless, you always consider another person in all your decisions and all your thinking, because you're a couple. You're always aware of him. Why should that change in the bedroom? And yet the secular world actually encourages being conscious of yourself, being aware of yourself, getting the most out of the relationship for yourself. It's a very bad message. So they tell you to be happily married by being selfish. Would you be surprised to find that that doesn't work? It just doesn't work. It tears couples apart.